Question 37. What was your best experience with drugs or alcohol? Your worst experience? It says drugs or alcohol, as though I have to pick one and answer that. Right. I'm not greatly experienced with either. I'm not teetotal. I do drink, but I've never been roaring drunk. I've never been so drunk that I was utterly irresponsible. I've never been so drunk that I've thrown up. I've never been so drunk that I couldn't remember what I was doing last night. Although actually I'm positively suspicious about that. I can't prove it, but my strong suspicion is that 90% of people who claim that they can't remember what they were doing last night because they were so drunk, yes, they can. They're claiming that because it's an excuse. I've known this. People, but why? Actually, this puts me in mind of a bad experience with alcohol, but I wasn't the one who was drunk. I went to a party with a lady that I was really keen on, and she got quite drunk and got off with somebody else. And the next day she was saying, why did we leave the first, why did we leave the first party? I think you can remember why we left the first party. 2 years later, she admitted, yeah, I did know why we left the first party. Sorry. So that was a rather unpleasant experience with alcohol in that case. But I wasn't the one who was drunk. I can think of lots of other similar experiences there. I had a friend, Richard from university, who could be really funny and really interesting guy. And he had loads of anecdotes and funny stories, but he liked to drink. And the more he drank, the longer it took him to tell one of his funny stories. And oh my goodness, it really got... This is a funny story, but a funny story that would be a funny story if you told it well in 1 minute becomes an exasperating experience if you have to sit through the 15-minute version of it with loads of unnecessary repetition and digression and to get to the point. So yes, so he became a much less pleasant person to be with. Then there was Dale, who would come round for board game nights and spill his beer over the board games, ruining them. And he would say, "Oh, it's all right. It won't happen again. It won't happen again." It happened every time. So yeah, other people getting drunk can be really boring and annoying. I remember the first time I came across the idea. I think I was about 17 when I heard someone say that he had been brought up to believe that you should never drink when you're alone. And I thought, oh, that sounds like good advice. And that stayed with me. Now, sometimes I will have a beer whilst watching a movie or something, but on Blu-ray. But I will never get drunk alone. I think if you are getting drunk alone, particularly if this becomes a common thing, then you're probably you're on the road to developing a serious alcohol abuse problem. You drink with others as a social thing. There are other people to make sure that you're all right. They're watching out for you, and perhaps they will see that maybe you're drinking a bit too much, and they'll guide you on to something else there. And yes, it should be a convivial experience. And so yeah, so I took that to heart and have acted on it. And I have known people who have become alcoholics and who have taken drugs and have then had to get off those drugs and have had a really tough time doing so, and watching them struggle wasn't pleasant. So I've also been to some really... I do remember going to... There's one party in particular I remember going to where pretty much everyone got stoned apart from me. And being in a room of people just sort of sitting, staring ahead of them, being really mellow, is really boring. Stoned people are really boring. And I just went home. There wasn't much for me to be entertained by at that party. When I was in my early 20s, someone who I think was fairly drunk jumped on me and pulled me sideways and injured my back really badly, so much so that I'm still in pain to this day, and occasionally my back goes really bad for a bit and I can do nothing for a while. So yeah, not great experiences. Those. In my life, I've had one hangover. It was actually when my parents were visiting me. I was a student, and we'll drive out and see something in the country. Oh, stop at a country pub on the way. Oh, would you like cider, beer, cider? Oh, they don't have cider here. Oh, let's have a beer instead. Okay, right. Oh, at this pub they do though. So cider. Oh, we'll go to a restaurant afterwards, and we'll have. Let's have gin and tonics while we're thinking of what to order, and then we'll have white with the first course, and then a nice red with that. Oh, do you have pudding wines? And and on the way home we'll stop so I'd mixed the grape with the grain with the apple and I then went to meet a load of my friends at the Students' Union, and perhaps I was a bit more uninhibited than usual, but I wasn't roaring drunk. And the next day, when I had a stinker of a hangover, I can remember lying on my bed in my room with my eyes shut and the curtains shut and still being dazzled. Light and sound were very unpleasant things that day. And my friends were amazed. They said, but you didn't seem drunk. I wasn't particularly drunk, but I've had one hangover and I don't particularly want another one. It was horrible. I can remember once doing something that was slightly irresponsible. I was at one of my friend Tim's parties. He threw these great parties. They were Eurovision Song Contest parties. Now, I'm not into Eurovision at all, but his parties were good. He would send out invitations to people, making them representative of a certain country. So I might say, I might get Finland. So what each person had to do, they had to bring a drink to represent that country, and almost everybody brought alcohol. And you drank that drink. You served out your drink to everyone whilst your country's song was playing, and then people had, how long's a song? 4 minutes? So they had 4 minutes to get through a drink. Now, you might not give them a very large measure, but if you're getting one drink down everybody every 4 minutes or something, that's a way to get a lot of people pretty merry pretty quickly. I remember one year, halfway through, I think it was Iceland, it was just iced water. Oh, we were so ready for that. Well, thank you, ice water. Oh, that was such a relief. I do remember one year someone brought chocolate milk. That was not popular because he didn't have enough glasses to give people a different glass for everyone, so you just used the same glass every time, and chocolate milk did not go well with anything else. So if you throw that sort of party, and you get invited, maybe have a rule: no chocolate milk. Anyway, later on, these parties weren't as good because people were a bit older and they moved a bit further away. Oh, sorry, no, I'm the designated driver, and people had kids and other responsibilities, and so people couldn't all join in with the theme full gusto. And but I was, and I can remember there was some, I can't remember what it was, some sweet, sticky red drink, and I was trying to get this girl. Oh, come on! She said, all right, just a tiny bit, and I poured. I tried to get her to drink a little bit more, and I did not do this deftly, and she wasn't expecting me to pour more, and so she moved the glass, and I spilt some of this sticky red stuff on her nice dress, and all the people in the room who saw this went, oh! But I was not totally irresponsible. I realised, I really shouldn't have done that, and I shamefacedly sat down and didn't do any more pouring drinks for the rest of the night. So that was a bad experience. But if that's your worst experience, spilling a little bit of drink on one person's dress, I don't think I've done tremendously badly. Drugs. No, I've never experimented with drugs. And it's not something I've resisted actively. It's never been a struggle for me at all. One of the reasons that I'm incredibly unlikely to become an alcoholic is that I can't afford it. Another one is that alcohol has different effects on different people, and with me, I'm surprised when I hear people say, "Oh, well, once you've had a few, the next ones slip down so easily." Not with me. My body quite definitely says you've had enough. So I'll drink 1 pint of beer, no noticeable effect. 2 pints of beer, small effect possibly, and then not long after that, my body says you've had enough, and it becomes really physically difficult to get any more alcohol into me. Particularly if it's spirits, and my body says, no more. So that's one reason. And another reason is if I do get a little bit drunk, I don't get tremendously merry. the most common effect is I start to get a bit irritable and a headache. So that's another reason to stop drinking. So that's another reason that I'm really unlikely to become an alcoholic. Anyway, with drugs, I am my brain. I'm my mind, I suppose. But my mind is a product, I believe, of my brain. And that is easily the most valuable thing I have, and I have no desire to damage it even slightly. I know people say, oh, with some drugs, most of the damage gets healed. All right, so maybe most of it does, but some of it doesn't. I don't want to be damaging my brain with drugs, and I don't feel that the world is insufficiently marvellous. I find the world really marvellous. There are so many people to meet, so many things to do, so many places to go, so many books to read, so many films to watch. That why would I want to get out of my head? Why would I want to start distorting reality? Reality's great! I've just thought of another anecdote. It was Liz and somebody else's birthday, and they were having a joint birthday party in the Cooperage in Newcastle, and people were putting a fair bit of beer into themselves, and Liz got really quite drunk. Now, different people react differently, and Liz was one of those people who, when she got drunk, she would say, right, there are some people that I love, right, and there are some people that I really love, and I really, really love you. And she was at that stage, and she was going around the room telling pretty much, she told me, which, was nice, but given how many other people she was saying the same thing to, I didn't, put a huge amount of weight on that. But it was noticeable that there was this one lad who really fancied her, and he was looking quite annoyed because it was noticeable that she hadn't said this of him. I really, really love you. Anyway, eventually she was all the way down the front of her t-shirt. Oh dear. Anyway, Kath was on the ball, and she dealt with the situation. She got Liz immediately, took her into the ladies' loos, and dealt with the situation. This involved getting the completely sick-soaked t-shirt off her, and find a bag. Okay, lovely. And I don't know if Liz was wearing anything at all underneath that t-shirt. But anyway, she Kath got her leather jacket. Get me a leather jacket, pass it, thank you. And put Liz in the leather jacket, and of course zipped up the front to hide what was under there. And then back to the party. And the party carried on going well. But Liz wasn't entirely with it, and but she was quite happy. And afterwards, she was feeling a bit warm, just looking at him. Why am I wearing this leather jacket? Why am I? And she started unzipping, and do you know what? Damn you, Kath, for being fast enough. Lindybeige!